I have this dream of becoming like one of those psychologists that incorporates zodiac signs into my understanding of why people are so fucking stupid. Like, I don't understand how you can do something over and over, get in trouble for it, and then just continue to still do that same thing, and then justify it by saying other people are doing it too. Other people aren't getting caught. I was supposed to see my friend tonight who was caught drinking and driving. And despite the fact that this man was caught drinking and driving, he still continues to be on the road doing whatever he wants, speeding. And it's like, what does it take? Like, a lot of times when you see people that like drink and drive and then they end up in jail, and it's like, so for some people it has to get that bad for them to like stop being stupid. And I don't understand it. Like, I think if anything, that's what I would like to understand, why people don't learn from lessons. Like, why don't you learn from the stupid shit that you've been doing forever, you know? Anyways, my hair is just not giving right now, and I didn't even plan to make this video, but I just wanted to talk about like stuff. Or men in general. As a young black woman, I am always trying to date black men, and then you realize they act like children. Like, I really wonder how like some women do it. That's why like I feel like some women just like stop, they give up, and like they date people who are smart. A lot of black men, you realize, don't actually go to school, and while school might be a bad rate of investment because it's a lot of money, you learn so much stuff. You know what I mean? You learn discipline, you learn so many things, you're interacting with so many different people. And people should really invest in like learning. I don't like dating black guys that don't have a type. It's like, you don't. I remember there was one guy, and I ended up like dating him for a long time. Would I call him an ex? Possibly. And I met him when I was like probably 21, going on 22, and he would just tell me stories of how like the different women that he's dated. And I never really thought about it until today, where I watched like an episode of this guy who was a sex addict on Soft White Underbelly with Mark. I don't know if anybody watches that, but if you do, you know what I'm talking about. And he was just talking about how he wanted a girlfriend, but he didn't want to like make the effort. He didn't want to put the effort into like, you know, buying flowers and chocolates and calling and, you know, pursuing a woman as a man should. And he ended up just like stopping. He said he would stop on the road and ask girls like, do you want $40? And he got into like dating transgender girls, you know, just stooping low, like being negative rather than being positive. And that guy that I was just talking about, who I said I dated, I feel like he is kind of like that guy from that episode of Soft White Underbelly that I watched. And I just think it's like gross, because that guy from Soft White Underbelly who went on that spree of like just sleeping with like so many different people and being like the guy that I dated, since then I've done so many checkups and stuff. Even while I was dating him, I don't think he's gross because he's like Nigerian, Igbo. He's not gross to the point where he'll like date any type of woman. It was just the fact that like he was okay with like, oh, I've never dated a Mexican before, or I've never dated a girl from Sri Lanka before, but like they had to look good, right? So he would date just go on a spree of dating different women. And I'm just like, do all men think in that way? Or, well, obviously not. There are guys that have a type. And then now I'm just realizing that like that's actually pretty gross, and I wouldn't want to like date someone with that mentality again. Imagine a woman said that, oh, I never dated this guy before, I never, and then you know what the names they would call us if a guy does it. It's supposed to just be like, that's fine. Well, it isn't. Anyways, that guy from Soft White Underbelly who went on a spree of just dating like so many different ill, disgusting women, ended up contacting like HIV. I think he said. No, I think he said, that's what he said. And he saw it as an asset. He just tries to justify his horrible behavior. Maybe I'll put the link in the description so like you guys could watch it. I don't know if that's a thing that I could do, but like guys like that, you don't really want to date men like that. And then I feel like and that guy was white, that guy from Soft White Underbelly, and I'm like, in that case I could kind of like understand that because of like the thoughts, the stigma, or the way people think about like maybe white men that look like him, you know, tatted, long hair. I mean, wouldn't be my type, but like you see like black men that are very handsome and stuff. If you're the type of person to be doing stuff like that, that's weird. I personally just feel like black men should date black women, simply because of the history, especially of like what white women have done to black men in the past and continue to do. I don't know, I just feel like you should have a type. Like you should date like your kind. That's why like I actually respect like people who have a culture, like Indian people. I'm not saying that they don't step out, but not a lot. Like where I'm from is predominantly an Indian community where I live right now, and you never see like an Indian man with like a white woman, or an Indian woman with like a black man. Like you hardly see that. And if you do, it's because she's like Caribbean Indian, because a lot of people from the Caribbean look Indian, and you know, but if you're really Indian, you don't really see that, and I respect it. I don't really know how I feel about like that mixed, you know, I feel like love is love at the end of the day, and if that's what it is, absolutely, and I'll always like be like that, especially even when it comes to the LGBTQ community. Like if two women are dating each other and they actually love each other, I'm for it. But if you're just out here experimenting, to me that's gross. Always have been, always will be to me, because it just shows your lack of self-control. Like me, I've always dated black men. Have I gone out with guys of different ethnicities? Yes, but never like, you know, because it's like not, that's how you tell when you have a type and when like you don't, because you're just not, you don't think of them in that way. Like I could appreciate you for being different from me, and I could love like different things about you because you're different from me, but as it relates to like sleeping with that person, it's like I just don't see it happening. I've always dated black men, and I always will. It's just unfortunate when you meet the black men that are kind of like disgusting in that way. It really just turns you off. Seriously. And that just brings me to the thought, like, what do people do with their spare time? I feel like anyone doing reckless things and trying to justify it like in the most stupid way, there are rules for a reason. Even self, in the sense that like you get caught, for example, the example that I gave, gosh, that I gave about my friend who was coming to meet me that got pulled over by the cops, and you already been caught drinking and driving, and it's already messed up those demerit points and all those things that you have like on your license. and then you justify it by saying other people are doing it too. But they didn't get caught, you did. And you're a black man. And in the case where like you can talk your way out of things, it works. Like you could talk your way out of like a ticket just by being polite, but your way of dealing and doing stuff is always like, especially black people in general, especially black men, it's just like, because I'm black, like you already just make yourself the victim in every situation rather than being charming and trying to like work your way out of the situation. Because people like people with confidence. When you're confident and you can say, you know what, I'm going to see my friend, lie on the spot. Learn to lie. The whole world is based on lies. Like, learn to lie on the spot. Learn to do things to to get yourself out of trouble, rather than comparing yourself to everybody else. I don't know. I really would like to dive into like just understand why people do the things that they do and behave in the way that they do, because it doesn't make any sense to me a lot of the times. Coming back to that guy from the soft white underbelly, if he had chosen to just like maybe, and he was actually he's not dead, is actually a good looking guy, maybe if he chose to be positive and actually pursue a woman, rather than being, why do people always like to make themselves victims of everything? Oh, my dad killed himself, so this is why I am how I am. Why not just hold yourself accountable for being a piece of shit, for being negative all the time, and therefore ending up in negative situations? Happy, positive thoughts brings you into happy, positive places, because you're just a happy person. And that's why, like me, whenever like I'm dealing with someone and I realize that like they're negative Nancy or negative Newman, if you're a man, I just cut you off completely, because the world is a battlefield and you just need to learn to adopt behaviors and be a positive person. I understand that like people would go through things, that you don't have control over, and it could affect your life in certain ways, but still you have autonomy over your being, and you can always choose to like relocate somewhere and find like a job somewhere. Don't like justify your stupid behavior by being a victim of a situation. Like, all it takes is sometimes buying a plane ticket, moving somewhere, and starting over. Who's gonna stop you? Going off grid. Like, life doesn't have to be as hard as people make it. And that's why, like I said, I would love to get into it, to just kind of like understand why people do the things that they do. Although I feel like I already know, of all the fear that people put into you, the people you associate with, the things that they put into your head, the things you put into your head by maybe doing too many drugs, and like just constantly feeling sorry for yourself. It could be bad. There are people, like, I feel like everyone has traumatic things that they go through. You just have to recognize that for being something that happened in your life at a particular time, and the people who did it to you were just like who they were. And don't like let that stop you from being a great person. Like, as far as you can see things from like different perspectives and see that like this person hurt me because of their history. For some it's worse than others. It's just like a whole life of negative things happening to you constantly, and so I don't expect you to be like the most positive person, but that doesn't mean like you can't try to change And sometimes it just means changing your environment. You know what I mean? A lot of the times. And going to a place where maybe you don't even speak the language as the people that are there, and deciding to learn the language, deciding to just be there, you know what I mean, until it gets better. And then when it does, still just be there because you found a place to be happy. Um, but yeah, drugs and like the people you associate with, I feel like that really does stuff to people. Um, and that's why I could come and say that like I actually love people that are different than me, and that doesn't mean like I have to be with you in that way. If it comes to a point where like that's a thing where like I fall in love with you, like I said earlier, if it's true love, then fine, rather than like just trying different things and being like a disgusting like sex addict. That is different. But like when it comes to true love, you know, in terms of like what you're doing, that's really all that matters. You know, we see it all the time. If you're observant enough, nature has all the love that you need. um I hate when I'm saying stuff and then like it doesn't finish. um but I was saying in the end that a lot of the times people that become, you know, psychologists and psychotherapists and stuff, they're in it for, a lot of times you never know. People are in things for like the money. Some people actually care. I'm just interested in like just learning like the whole logic behind it all. There's a thing that like I notice this, like sometimes you talk to people and like they always say that's how I am, that's how I am. And it always bothers me because I'm like, can't you try to change if it's for the better, you know what I mean? For me, like I know that I have an attitude like when I get really angry I'll just like tell the truth, of how I feel about someone, which could be good or bad. um, People don't often like the truth, or like when you figure things out about them. It's actually interesting. But yeah, and often people get offended by it, but I'm always just telling the truth in like the worst way. And I think if anything, I just have to work on my delivery, which is something that one of my friends told me. So that's not bad. And even in that sense, like I only say that's the truth and like maybe get nasty about it to people that it's like you weren't even worth my time in the first place, and I gave you my time because I'm trying to like help you and you're just so fucking ungrateful. That's what really triggers me. um but yeah, back to the whole soft white underbelly guy example. I feel like antidepressants and stuff, pills that like you get, can only do so much for you. And people that want to change, sometimes you just have to change the people you're around, for one, your environment, and which changes the way you think a lot of the times. Because when you're surrounded by people, they put things in your head, right? Like reading a book, but it's not a book. And people that write books are actually smart. So changing your environment for one, and just like really wanting to be better, you know, having positive thoughts. I think I said earlier that like a lot of people just go through a lot of frustration their entire life, so it's hard for them to have positive thoughts. But that also had a lot to do with the environment you were in. So sometimes all it takes is like booking that plane ticket and going to Dubai or China or some place where you don't even know the language and you're forced to learn the language. And you're forced to make yourself happy in that environment. You left everything behind. You change your name. I mean, who's stopping you, really? You know, people do that all the time. The other day I was reading on the Medium how people from Tokyo, like, they literally have agencies to do that. Agencies put in place to help you like escape. Like, you just run away. You don't, you maybe you leave a letter for your family or something and you just start a life somewhere else. What's stopping people from doing that? Drugs, right? Like, you indulge in drugs that just make you, it doesn't, it just corrupts your mind, and like it does like a lot of stupid shit to you. So that has to be one of the things that you stop also. Drugs, weed, any drug that just makes you think differently or in any way. And weed does that too. Especially weed that isn't homegrown, if you know what I mean. But in the end, it comes back to you wanting better for yourself. And a lot of that times, like I said, it starts from just getting away. Me, I've been away from like family and friends for years now, and it has changed the way I think. Um, and I personally know that if I were to move anywhere in the world, I'd be able to survive just because I'm so content. You know what I mean? Like, I don't need lavish things to exist. I just need to wake up every day and make sure I go outside for a nice walk, exercise. I like to sweat, you know? I write or I read a book. Those are the things that make me happy. Writing, reading. I have to go for a walk. You know, I love sweating. Something about sweating really does it for me. And I mean, does that cost me anything? No, because I literally went for a run out today. They had tires. I lifted the tires. I turned it. I was like running out of breath. I'm like, yes, I'm strong. I felt great. So, but not everybody could live like me because of how you were raised. And I've read so many stories, which I feel like I've shared on here. At the end of the day, your life is yours. You're brought into the world, but you have to learn to live your life for you, regardless of like anything. But again, it really starts somewhere. Why am I doing this? For me, it started with like just getting away from stupid people, whether it be people that I used to associate with before and call friends. The worst thing is to just be around people that you don't even have an education, you don't even read a book, and here you are trying to give me advice. Please. So, if anybody wants to reach out to me to talk, I don't mind. Leave a comment below. Maybe you just want to talk about some stuff, try to figure out who you are and maybe the things that you could do to be better, and I can help you with that. Just one brief conversation. And at the end of the day, people can sit and tell you so many things in terms of what you need to do. It's up to you to take action. I just want to make sure that I say that, because there's advice everywhere. Personal advice, one-on-one, I could do that for you, no problem. But you really have to decide to take action and do what's best for you. So thank you for coming to my TED Talk. As usual, I have rain sounds in the back because I like rain sounds. I'm currently doing laundry. I'm about to go finish doing that. It's 1:30 a.m. in the morning, 1:29 a.m. to be exact. And I didn't plan to do this, but now it is done. I don't know, like, the ending is always. But as usual, subscribe. Leave a comment if you want to have a conversation. Share if you think anything that I said can help someone, or if that someone needs me to intervene. And I think that's the 3 things: like, comment, share, subscribe. 4 things. Toodles.